Okay, hot topic of the week. After Deshaun's frustration with the Houston Texans organization, where do you think a primary spot for him to land is going to be? Agilan, you first.
Now, the whole Deshaun Watson trade is at this point just a rumor. It started out with the fact that he tweeted out something about some things never changing. Everyone believes that this is part of the Houston organization. But moving and getting traded for a player aren't so simple. They have to consider living situations, where they want to be, where they want their family to be, etc. Now, let's assume that Deshaun Watson does want to trade. I believe that the most likely destination for Deshaun Watson would be Jacksonville, because Jacksonville has the one thing that the Texans realistically want at this point in time, which is a first round pick. Now, every team wants a very good quarterback, and I believe Jacksonville is the only team that can seriously give a very good quarterback to Houston in return for Deshaun Watson. Now, Jacksonville has had some terrible draft luck recently, especially considering the fact that they drafted Minshew and then they drafted Jake Luton. Both of these quarterbacks turned out to be busts. And in recent years, Jacksonville has been looking for a new quarterback. Deshaun Watson is a top five, has been solidified as a top five quarterback already. And Trevor Lawrence is still just a draft pick. We don't know how he'll turn out. We don't know how he'll be. He has star potential for sure, but we never know if he'll ever be as good as Deshaun Watson is right now. And Deshaun Watson is extremely young. So Jacksonville would love to have Deshaun Watson on their team. Now, for a first round pick, in terms of getting value back, the Texans likely want a quarterback because they still have J.J. Watt, they still have Will Fuller, etc. They're still trying to get to the playoffs. Now, if they want a quarterback in return, there's no real other team that can give them a quarterback for Deshaun Watson, other than maybe the Cowboys, which does not really seem very likely as Dak Prescott really wants to stay in Dallas. Now, when we're talking about Deshaun Watson as a top five quarterback, what other quarterback could be given back with the same value? Mahomes, that's not going to happen. When talking about people like Josh Allen, that's not going to happen either. They're obviously not going to trade for some older quarterback because then they have to win in the playoffs in the next year or two. They're likely going to go for Jacksonville because Jacksonville will be willing to do it because of their recent terrible draft luck and the assurance that they'll get a top five quarterback anyway. Especially considering the fact that as of right now, it's believed that Trevor Lawrence is the best QB prospect in recent years, and Justin Fields is on nearly just as good as him. I believe that Houston really can't go wrong with the first pick, and so they would be willing to do that trade. Worst comes to worst, they'll also add in someone like Will Fuller to the package, and Jacksonville will most likely accept Ben over how they're accepting now.
Well, unlike you, I care about Deshaun Watson and I want him to go to a contender. So
Houston
I
care?
like the well, probably because if Bill O'Brien is gone, I don't think they might be as stupid with their decisions. So although the Jacksonville Jaguars are an exciting area because they have the first pick, that would be good for management, but that would just regard the sign of a rebuild. So if you're going to go for a full-on rebuild, especially looking at the fact that some of their players are getting old and they're losing out on a good offense, looking at the fact they have David Johnson and Brandon Cooks, they should go for another trade that would be better for Deshaun Watson. He wants to be on a contender team, not the Jacksonville Jaguars, where you still have to develop for years to come in order to actually be a playoff team. So the team I believe that Deshaun Watson should go to is the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so he should be going to the San Francisco 49ers, a team that he could contend and actually potentially win a Super Bowl. The San Francisco 49ers are not really short on talent, but they were injury ridden this season, so they're not in the playoffs. But come next year, the 49ers will be back if healthy and will be another Super Bowl contender. One of the biggest issues with the San Francisco 49ers, though, is Jimmy Garoppolo, who has a really hard time staying healthy. And he has been healthy in the last season when they went to the Super Bowl. However, he really lacked in that this season. So I think it will be time for the 49ers to move on from Garoppolo and probably bring in a guy like Deshaun Watson. Watson will be a dream, like a dream of a quarterback for Kyle Shanahan. Like, Shanahan will love this man. Furthermore, Deshaun Watson has the capability of making players around him better. Even despite the fact that the Texans had Brandon Cooks, Deshaun Watson was able to make sure that Cooks was able to produce and do enough, even though they did go 5-11. So with that being said, if they were to go on a blockbuster trade, Deshaun Watson should go to the 49ers where he could contend with such a good offense with George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and good running backs. The 49ers could really become championship contenders, and that would be the type of team that Deshaun Watson would really want to be in.
Okay, Gillen, your take on that.
All right, now I'd like to respond to what Garb just said. Garb is completely
Right, this
right.
isn't like a political
The
debate. You can just go for it,
49ers,
my
the
guy.
49ers are definitely playoff contenders. Now, there's two main issues with this. If there's one golden rule in football, you don't mess with a Super Bowl caliber team. Now, the 49ers have made it to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Garv explicitly stated that the 49ers are a Super Bowl contender and would be a better Super Bowl contender if they had Watson. Now, this may be true, but when considering moving players for different players, everything is speculation. Deshaun Watson and Jimmy Garoppolo are two different types of players. San Francisco has a working system that allows them to win games, shown by the fact that they made it to the Super Bowl before they were ridden with injuries the next season. If San Francisco has most of the players they have now, especially considering the fact that Raheem Mostert has come out as an absolute star, how can the 49ers be any worse than they were 2 years ago, especially considering that Jimmy Garoppolo fits perfectly into their system? Now, you can talk about injuries, etc., but there's a golden rule in football. You don't mess with a Super Bowl contender. And this is a Super Bowl contender by the fact that they literally made it to the Super Bowl. Now, can the 49ers get Deshaun Watson to be the exact same team? Most fans would say yes, obviously. Deshaun Watson's just a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. But can you really for sure say that he will fit into the system perfectly? This is shown exactly by the fact that Nick Foles is considered one of the best quarterbacks in football after he led the Eagles to a Super Bowl run. He comes to Chicago. He doesn't fit into their system. He leaves them on a 6-game losing streak. Now, we don't know exactly how Deshaun Watson will fit into their thing, and even if there's a small chance that Deshaun Watson will not fit into their system perfectly, Kyle Shanahan or the GM won't take a single chance and trade for Deshaun Watson. It's just not a possibility. And Houston will not send Deshaun Watson to a contender just because he wants to go to a contender. Once Deshaun Watson leaves Houston, he's no longer Houston's problem. Houston will trade Deshaun Watson to the team that will give him the most in return. Now, what can the 49ers give the Texans in return? Anything that they give the Texans that has the same value as Deshaun Watson does right now will be a part of their Super Bowl team. And I doubt that Kyle Shanahan or the GM or the 49ers will be willing to give up an important piece of an already established Super Bowl contender. That's just not going to happen. The Texans will send into the place where they get the most value out of it. Because the second Deshaun Watson leaves Houston, he's no longer their problem. Jacksonville is a team that can give Houston the most. And we're talking about contenders, et cetera, there's a reason Jacksonville would trade for Deshaun Watson. If they were continuously rebuilding, they wouldn't. Because then they're obviously sending him, they're obviously bringing in a star player just to bring in fans. This could be a reason, but I believe that they have a lot of key young pieces, and Jacksonville sees that too, especially on offense. James Robinson and DJ Chark. Deshaun Watson was able to do whatever he was able to do in Houston with much less talent that Jacksonville has on offense right now. James Robinson is a better running back than David Johnson at the moment. DJ Chark is a better receiver than Will Fuller at the moment, minus, of course, steroid use. Now, when we're talking about defense, obviously J.J. Watt brings forth a better defense for the Texans. But Jacksonville's defense has been known to really step it up and try and put in a lot of effort when it really matters. Regardless of defense, I believe that Deshaun Watson would be the Jags would be trying to win games next year if they brought Deshaun Watson in anyway. Now, when you're considering the fact that either way, regardless of what happens, San Francisco does not have enough pieces to bring Deshaun Watson over without breaking up their Super Bowl team, and they don't. And obviously, the Texans are not going to accept several picks for Watson unless it really, really changes their team in a large way. And because Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback, how can you give away a top 5 quarterback for much less receiving talent, knowing that the Texans don't want to rebuild immediately because they have old players and J.J. Watt that really want to win now. And if J.J. Watt doesn't win now, he's going to leave too.
So you brought up Nick Foles earlier, I heard, and you were saying that Nick Foles was unable to fit into the system. Well, I see that the problem was Nick Foles, not the system. We can talk about some other time. We can talk about this some other time. Right now, our focus is on Deshaun Watson and his trading situation. Deshaun Watson could be seen as an asset by management for the Texans, but at the same time, he's a player who wants to win, and he is a star of a player. I think that the 49ers could easily fluff out future draft picks for Watson. And if he were to go on the team, I don't think that he could disrupt the system because Nick Foles is not Deshaun Watson. Nick Foles was a backup. He will always be a backup. He is inconsistent. Deshaun Watson is none of that. He is a star of a player. He is almost as good as Patrick Mahomes is. Looking at the fact that he led the league in
Cap.
yards despite going bad. No, it's not cap.
Cap.
It's factual.
Cap.
Galen, you can't
Fruitic,
guard
Fruitic,
sleeves
help me.
either.
Fruitic, help me.
Bro,
Galen,
Deshaun Watson in my eyes isn't even top 5. Everyone's freaking out. Oh, he's so good, bro. If you're such a good player,
Galen.
then you win games, regardless of how bad your team is. I'm sorry, but he's not top 5.
Okay,
So,
Gar, keep on going.
Yeah, so he has to carry the team, Aguilan. You want to fight?
Well, are the Texans good? Are they winning games? No.
Well, Deshaun Watson's good.
Yeah, well, how can you tell, huh? If Aaron Rodgers was on the most
Because he led the league in yards, got Brandon Cooks to
31st
two.
defense, 31st ranked
No,
defense. He still went 15-1. That shows
the
an elite quarterback.
numbers, but the numbers are on Deshaun Watson's
Numbers are not on
side.
Deshaun Watson's side.
Numbers are
Passing
not
yards
there.
don't
No,
matter.
no.
They don't matter.
No
You don't
matter.
score, they don't matter. If you don't
'cause they
score,
don't score 'cause-
yards don't matter, Garv.
No,
Alright,
they
we done
score,
with this
but like
decision?
everybody else.
They don't
their
score.
Defense,
They're
their
trash.
defense sucks. No, it's that the
The
Texans
defense is
defense.
J.J. Watt. Did the Packers defense in 2011 have a J.J. Watt caliber player?
No,
The Packers
I'm
went
serious.
15-1
I'm serious.
because Rodgers carried the living daylights out of them.
Bro,
Wilson has a 31st ranked defense. The
Aaron
Seahawks have a
Rodgers
winning
is
record. You're
different.
telling me the Seahawks help is worse than the
I'm
Texans
surprised you
help.
haven't realized this by now, that Aaron Rodgers is different.
Oh, yeah, Russell Wilson. How about Russell Wilson then? Russell Wilson led the Seahawks to a winning record this year. This is literally the 3rd seed in the conference. His defense is ranked 31st. How did he do
But
it?
his
He doesn't have
offense
help.
Is,
He doesn't have help because he
but
doesn't
his,
have help.
but,
He doesn't win.
but
He
his
still
offense.
wins games.
Oh my
because he's an
lord!
elite quarterback.
Oh my, Aguilan, you're
So
hurting
Watson,
me.
You have to win games to be an elite quarterback. I'm
sad.
sorry. It is what it is.
This is sad. This is
It's not
sad,
that.
man.
It's literally just a blatant fact. Everyone's
No,
talking about Deshaun
it's sad.
Watson. No picks. He threw 26 touchdowns last year. Is that elite? Are those elite numbers? Aaron Rodgers threw 26 touchdowns last year, and everyone literally screamed at him for it. John Watson did 26 last year. This year, he basically did the exact same amount. 26
Well,
touchdowns.
he's not a magician. Deshaun Watson isn't a magician. You can't expect it to happen. Well, Aaron Rodgers is MVS and he's carrying the team. I don't care.
He threw 26 touchdowns. 26 is nothing.
Yeah, because when you have no
half
one,
of
you
Aaron
can't
Rodgers'
throw
touchdowns.
that many. Have you not realized this by now, bro?
Oh, what did I not realize, Garth? He threw half. He literally threw 26 touchdowns.
Yeah, but
Yards mean nothing without touchdowns. They mean nothing without touchdowns. You're telling me that Duke Johnson last year had 30 touchdowns or something?
Okay, listen, let me talk. No, again, my turn. Again, I swear to God. Okay. But that is not on Deshaun Watson.
It is. He's the quarterback.
So it's all okay. That's just your logic. That's not even like
quarterbacks win games regardless of the help that they have.
Okay, this is this clear bias. The majority of America,
the majority of
America is not supporting your claims right now. So I am going to.
They had Kenny Stills.
I will be the bigger man right now. I'm not going to argue on this. I'm not going to argue on this. I'm not going to argue on this. Again, I'm not even going to respond.
Deshaun Watson can't win
I'm not even going to respond.
4 games with them. You're telling me you can't win more than 4 games and Deshaun Watson.
So sending him to a contender, I think he could fit into Kyle Shanahan's coaching system since he's kind of a young coach and has like a more open mindset on play calling and stuff. So sending him to a contender maybe cut some fluff on defense or probably give out future draft picks. They could do that with Deshaun Watson. I think he could easily fit into the system. And having such an elite receiving core and a running back, they should be able to be contenders. It's all just on the smartness of Texas management, honestly. Like for all we know, they could send to Las Vegas and we won't even know. Because
all right, now
Texans suck.
Who would you think Deshaun Watson is going to Jacksonville? Do you think he's going to the Niners, and why?
Or any other team?
Honestly, I don't even think
give
the
me your
Texans
opinion.
will trade him.
You just have to agree with someone and say who you agree with more.
No,
although you think
I don't think the Texans.
He
would
doesn't
trade
have
him.
to.
Knowing the GM, I doubt they would give a Super Bowl caliber quarterback to another team when they're in the process of rebuilding. I doubt they would give him away.